what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
The Airtime Podcast is presented by Van Shoes since 1966. 66!
There's nothing fake about it. Have something to believe in and be yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're feeling up to it, a 5-star review goes a long way. Also, sharing on Instagram, Facebook, greatly appreciated. It's just a great way to get out these amazing stories by these amazing individuals. Quick note, Microsoft recently published a study saying that in the last few years, our attention span has decreased 25%, leaving us at a staggering 8-second attention span, similar to a goldfish. Today's guest, a close friend of mine from Summerland, BC. Don't that sound pretty? Why'd he move? Well, like most of us, he was just obsessed with snowboarding, and I'm assuming the Wildcats who lived in the same neighboring town probably lured him in. And that's exactly where he went. When he got off the bus, Kevin Sansalone was there to recognize his talent. Kevin Sansalone, if you don't know who that is, won the 1999 X Games with a backside rodeo. Now people do like 4 or 5 rodeos in one go, but we'll give Kev the benefit of the doubt here. I mean, it was 22 years ago. Kevin, obviously having a knack for spotting talent, let Rusty film for his iconic production company up here in Canada called Sandbox Films, which Rusty absolutely crushed. Rusty never really getting the backing or the support or the recognition that he deserved until he filmed with Forum, and that kind of led to his breakthrough part with People Films Pretty Wise, which he ended, and then the Sandbox days were gone. The Burton getting hooked up with one free board was gone. You know what I mean? It was all just, it was just money and private jets from there on out. Probably not. But he started killing it after he filmed for Pretty Wise, getting on Oakley. And then, he came up with this great idea with his best friend Mark Sollers to start the Manboys, which I'm very thankful for the opportunity to film for that because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. Also giving an opportunity to Matt Belzil and the random straggler that none of us really knew but decided to give an opportunity to, Chris Rasman. He wasn't really in our circle, but we gave him a shot, and it turns out it was a good idea because he's probably one of the best backcountry snowboarders in the world right now. Congrats, Chris, for finishing 4th at Natural Selection, which is cool, but, I ride with Chris all the time. I think he could have done better. I think he knows that, and he's going to have to live with that guilt. All right, back to Rusty. Big shout-outs for making the Manboys, and if you haven't seen that, that is a production company that's made films for the last 5 years that have taken home Transworld Awards. Rusty not only filming in those, but also editing those. Unfortunately, this last year, Rusty got let go from his sponsors, which I don't really know why happened, and I'll never understand it because I'm out there with Rusty, and the washed up aspect is so far from reality. It's insane. He's so talented. He lands everything first try, knows how to build everything. He can collect assets through his camera, his editing skills, and he's just the package deal as far as a professional snowboarder goes. So, yeah. Nowadays, you can see him behind the lens because, yes, he's picked up a camera and he's joined the club of backcountry cinematographers. And we are all excited to see the snowboarding that he documents in the future. And this year even, he's documented quite a bit. Mikey Rentz, Mark Sollers, Chris Rasman, they all have some shots with Rusty. And that will be in a Gibbons Après Lager production that will be coming out this fall. So stay glued for that. All right, let's get to the show. Thank you so much for coming on, Russ. Big fan. You've inspired billions of people, and you frickin' rule. All right, a word from our sponsor, and then straight to the show. All right, big shout outs to our sponsor, Vans, simply the best snowboard boots in the world, without a doubt. The boot I'm going to talk about today is the Infuse. I ride this boot personally. It's my favorite boot in the line, without a doubt. It's got the top strap, so you can customize the flex on your boot in case you want a softer boot or a stiffer boot. You know, sometimes you're riding the park, you want a little bit looser. Sometimes you're riding POW, you want that extra support. The one thing I will not compromise with any boot is I need ankle support. The Infuse dials in the BOA, which sucks in your ankle so you get no heel lift. By far my favorite boot. Check them out today, the Vans Infuse. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We have one of my best friends, somebody I've spent or logged a lot of time with in the mountains. We have Rusty Ockenden on the podcast. How you doing, boss?
Doing well, Jodes. Thank you, man. Yeah.
You having a good day?
Dude, I'm having like a super mellow day. I've just been running around for, well, you know, like those Whistler trips. I was back and forth a handful of times in the past few weeks on the ferry and stuff. So I'm kind of like behind on stuff. I was like watering all my plants today and cleaning the garage, laundry, just stuff like that.
Keeping plants alive is literally a gigantic burden.
Yeah.
All
Dude,
the plants in my house are like half brown right now, and I love plants.
Yeah. And like the longer you have them, the more attached you get. You know, all of a sudden your plants are like 6 years old, and you like, if it died, you'd be like super choked.
You're like, not Billy.
Yeah.
I loved Billy. I feel like cactuses are the hardest plants to take care of because every plant you have to like water differently, and cactuses you have to like, I didn't know this a while ago. I used to just water them. And my girlfriend's like, what are you watering the cactus for? You're supposed to like mist them because they're not supposed to get like, I don't know. So we have like this little misting gun for the cactuses. Yeah. Although they're all dying, so maybe the mist gun is actually not working out so good.
Yeah, I just don't water them often. I have like 2 cactus. I don't water them much, and they like small pots. I don't know why. They like to be like cramped, I think.
So you said you mentioned you're up in Whistler. You've been doing some filming. What are you filming for right now?
I'm making a little thing, a little like fun to watch thing for Après Lager, and it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a structure for it. I've just been kind of like linking up with friends and filming them. So that was with you guys, you and Rasman, for a trip there where you guys did really well, and then I've been with Mark and Mikey Renz for the last week. And I've actually been filming surfing out here with my friend Noah Cohen. So I think there's probably going to be a little surf thing in there because we've actually been getting good waves and getting good clips. So I'm going to try and kind of just make it like a fun board sports thing.
That's awesome. I feel like if you're a beer company, that's exactly what you want to promote your company, is people getting out there, doing activities that allow them to get super thirsty.
And it's, I don't know, it's the people I hang out with, and if they're, you know, I'm the one making this thing, so I'm just gonna hang out with my homies and film them. So that's kind of what it's turning into. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of like snowboard people who aren't interested in the surf portion and vice versa, but it's not really, I don't know, I think it'll be watchable for everyone. So.
And you snuck a heli day in there with Mark Sollers and Mikey Rentz and Gabe Langlois. How was the heli day? Stable conditions? The guys excel or what?
Yeah, we got lucky. We actually went out. We went out like a week ago, and they ended up pulling the plug. It was pretty wind hammered, and they weren't really feeling it. And I was kind of choked because we could have done something that day. But they decided to roll over the hours into another day. So I had to do another trip back to the island and then back to Whistler to film them. But it ended up being the right call because the snow was a lot better for them on the second trip. So they were able to kind of open up a little more.
Interesting question here, or interesting perspective. Now, were you agitated with Mark and Mikey for pulling the plug? Conditions weren't that good and stuff, because now you're not a rider, technically you're filming them and you're like, damn it, they should have just taken advantage of it. But if you put yourself in the rider's shoes, do you feel like you would have pulled the plug? Or is
don't
this
know.
new filmer Rusty coming into frame now?
Well, yeah, well, filming's actually really fun. It's interesting. I find myself getting like, I'm just as excited or maybe more excited to get shots now because it's just new to me, you know, and I'm just excited to film something that's cool. It's like more exciting for me at this point than it would be to like strap in my snowboard and get another clip, you know? So I don't know. I think I was just like frothing and they were like, they made the right call. So it's good.
Well, Rusty, to the people that are new to snowboarding or don't know a lot, legendary longtime pro snowboarder turned recently, very recently, due to the fortunate events of COVID-19, losing some sponsors and then turning into a filmmaker now. But I feel like we're kind of skipping some chapters here. So I'd love to take this back to where did you grow up?
I grew up, I'm from British Columbia. I haven't really moved far from home. I grew up in the Okanagan in a town called Summerland. It's pretty close. Well, I mean, geographically, it's fairly close to Whistler. I mean, it's like a 5-hour drive probably from Whistler.
And have you ever been to Whistler before you moved there, or was it like?
Yeah. I went to, okay, this is actually how I ended up in Whistler was we had a local pro out of Summerland before me. His name's Donnie Ellis, and he was a Burton rider. And he was 7 or 8 years older than me or something. But when I started snowboarding, he was kind of around still. And I knew he was like so sick at skateboarding and just fucking, he was like the standout guy from our town. And then he had moved to Whistler and he came back to our local resort, Apex, and he was judging a snowboard contest. And I had already known him a bit from the skate park when I was a kid. And anyway, at that snowboard contest, he told me that if I won, that I could come stay with him for like the long weekend in Whistler or something. And I was like 15 or 16 and I didn't win. I came in second and he still let me come. So I went out and stayed with him in Whistler for the weekend. And I just like, from that moment, I went back to Summerland and I was like, I'm graduating early and I'm moving to Whistler. Like that's my new plan in life, basically. I didn't even know Whistler existed before then, you know?
Wow. Sick.
Yeah.
How did you graduate early?
Well, actually, when that happened, I went back I must have been 15. And I knew that to graduate high school, they take grade 11 and grade 12 credits. And those are the only ones that like matter for graduation. I don't know if it's the same now because I'm fucking old and it probably has changed. But anyway, at the time, it was grade 11 and grade 12 courses got you credits, and credits are what got you to graduate. So I just figured out if I took certain courses, I took like some grade 11 courses in grade 10, and then in grade 11, I could take a bunch of grade 12 courses. And then in grade 12, I was like done a bunch of courses already. So I could just do half a year and then leave. And
this is exactly so cool. As I mentioned for the intro, how we're like best friends. I did the same thing. And we didn't know that about each other. I stacked all my credits so I could graduate early.
No way.
Yeah, I stacked all my credits. I went to jazz band early before school started, and I built up credits in grade 8, 9, and 10. Or sorry, 9, 10, and 11, and I could use those all to grade 12. Anyways, I accumulated enough credits or spares that the second half of grade 12 was just completely empty. So I moved to Whistler.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And then I think I moved to Whistler on like February 1st or something. So then you got like your February, March, April, May. And I was like, and then I'll move back home. And I just never moved back home. But, yeah.
One other question I'd love to ask, just because I actually don't know a lot about like what was the homestead like for you growing up? Is your family outdoor people? Like you have a brother? What was that like?
Yeah, my family are outdoor, or like my parents and my brother too. Yeah, but my parents for sure outdoor people. Like my mom in our town, my mom was known as the runner lady because she'd just be like running around. She'd like go for a run every day and go hiking and like run up the mountain and shit. And then when people found out it was my mom, they'd be like, "Oh, your mom's the runner lady." Small town, but yeah. And just like, I don't know, my whole childhood, like camping and trips, like we never went international. I didn't go on a fucking airplane until I was like 24 years old. But we went all over BC and like hiked everywhere, camped everywhere. It was like hippie style, like we were like hiking and tent camping, and we had like the orange Volkswagen pop top van.
Oh, cool. And not even because you're trying to be cool. It's just because it's the most practical vehicle for your family to have to go camping.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's amazing. So parents, obviously, were they supportive, or sorry, not obvious, but were both your parents really supportive with your move to Whistler? Or were they like, you're not graduating early and then just moving to the mountains?
No, they were down. Actually, the summer before I graduated, I also, as I said, I had stayed that long weekend with Donnie in Whistler, and we had a lot of fun. So he invited me back that summer, and he got me a job as a digger on the glacier. And not at Camp of Champions, though, at the shitty camp, Dave Murray. So we were like next to Camp of Champions in like
the shitty camp.
Well, it was still sick. It just wasn't Camp of Champions, And anyway, so they gave me their car for the summer that year, and I had the car. I was 16. I had the car for a month living in Whistler. So yeah, they were supportive for sure. I think it just took time for them to kind of like. I reached an age where I wasn't making money snowboarding, and I was working like essentially like service jobs and construction jobs to fund my snowboarding. And I think at that point they might have kind of been like, "Hey, like, is there money? Like, what are you doing?" You're like, I was like 21 and still, I don't know. But I think it's just like hard. It's hard for anyone outside of snowboarding to grasp that there's money in that industry, because it's like a marketing industry, and you're basically an advertisement. And I think that as soon as like people realize that, they're like, "Oh, I get it. That's why you get paid." Because if you're like, "I'm a pro snowboarder," people are like, "What? You're just good at snowboarding, so you get give you money because you're good? How does that make sense?" Like it just, yeah. I think once they realized that, then it was like, "Oh, cool. You're doing it out there."
And when you came up here and you were working at Dave Murray, did you come across any, were you on the T-bar with, Dion or JF Pelchat or like Chris Duffy up there? Or did you not even notice anyone else up there at COC? I'm just curious.
Dude, I didn't know anyone at COC. Like, we had our own camp, and the coaches there, like, so Donnie was a coach there, and I was a digger, where, like park maintenance guy. But the other coaches weren't like pros. They were just like dudes who were good at snowboarding, and they had some sponsors and stuff, but it wasn't like Camp of Champions where you had like your like upper echelon pros, like,
yeah.
Donnie was kind of like the biggest pro at our camp.
Sick.
And the other dudes were all rad though. Like, they're, yeah. It was
so
fun.
When I think about you growing up, I throw in like Max Ritchie, who used to be like an AM kind of guy for Solomon way back in the day. And I throw Phil Thomas, who used to ride for Forum, and Mark Sollers into that mix. Did you guys grow up all in the same kind of neighborhood, or when did you guys all meet?
Well, that was just a little bit later. So like that crew was, their local resort was Big White, and my local resort was Apex. So we only would cross over when there was a contest.
Yes.
When there was a contest at Apex, they'd all show up to do the contest. So that's how I met them. I didn't actually snowboard with those guys until I moved to Whistler. But yeah, so I you knew them, and you kind of didn't even like them, because they just showed up for the contest. Like, I remember Max. I did not like Max, and Max didn't like me. Like, we didn't like each other. And then fucking in Whistler, we lived together, and now he's like my best friend. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah, and then like Mark would usually, I feel like Mark would win the contest, like almost always. Like, Mark would show up at a contest and he would just win.
What was his go-to trick of frontside 7 melon?
I think he had like good front sevens by then. This was back so far that like each guy had like maybe 1.7 in one direction and landed it like maybe half the time. So if you like did one, you're just like, I'm gonna win. But yeah, Mark definitely had like, I was like a backsider. I had a back 7 and Mark had a front 7. But I think Mark could do like, Mark was doing like other moves. I feel like Mark even could do like switchback 5s then, which I like didn't even try until like 10 years later.
Did you ever get to ride with Mark when he was wearing the do-rag? When he was going like full like Forum 2000?
Yeah, man. There's a movie that we have shots. Mark has the ender in this movie. Actually, it's a shop video from a shop called Island Snow in Kelowna. It's called White Lies. Have you ever heard of it, Jody?
No.
Okay, dude, if you can, Mark might have a copy. You know who to have a copy probably is Mike Sperling, I bet. But like, there's this old, you'd have to fucking find a VCR to watch it though. But yeah, White Lies, and Mark has Ender in there, and it's like to a Beastie Boys song, and he's got the do-rag on and shit.
I mean, Mark Zollers from the Burton guy, for any of you guys that are kind of lost right now, if you could only imagine him in 2000 going for full Forum look with a do-rag, it's just like, that's quite comical.
It's sick, yeah.
So then you made the move to Whistler, and how did you make that move happen for the, like, financially? Did you work a job before and save up money, or your parents floating you? I feel like that's the hardest thing to piece together for any snowboarder or anybody who wants to live a different lifestyle out of their, like, 16-year-old living at their mom and dad's place. It's so hard to like figure out how to afford to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if your parents can help you is probably the easiest way, but I worked at a restaurant. So I'd like do school, and then I'd go and I was like a busboy at a restaurant. I do that in the evenings, and I think I didn't save much, like, because my plan was like, I can go to Whistler for 3 months and then I'm done and I gotta go home, like I think I must have had like under $2,000 for sure, like maybe like $1,800 saved up. And then I moved to Whistler. I got a volunteer job in the park, so I got my pass for free, and you just had to work 1 day a week on the resort. And then I had my $1,800, and yeah, and then I don't know, I ended up getting a job in Whistler. I got a job at Subway in Creekside.
Sandwich artist.
I was an artist, man. I would actually I was the only person I've ever seen at Subway still who I would get like compliments from people as I was building their sandwich. They'd be like, wow, you actually care. Like, yeah, fuck yeah. I love Subway.
Yeah, I had some Subway this summer, and I feel I'm saddened to tell everybody that I did, but me and Bellshill were doing a renovation on a place, and we were going there more than I'd like to admit, and holy shit, that place is terrible. And the people who work there, like you said, I couldn't find one person of the 10 employees they had that gave two shits about their jobs. Like, every time they would put a tomato on, I'm like, can you put it on there so it's at least balancing? Yeah, like even the sauce isn't keeping it on.
Or Subway has like so many tomatoes that aren't ripe. And they'll put tomatoes on there like green. You're like, dude, you can see that these are fucking, like, I don't want those ones. Like, I would never put that shit on someone's sandwich. And I'd always make sure that, like, if you want like olives, every bite is gonna have some fucking olives, like, I hate it when they just like put it on and it's like, hey man, there's this like 3-inch section that doesn't have any of that topping that I asked for.
I've never thought about it like that, but yeah, that's but like, if you go into like the hot kind of pepper zone, you know what I mean? Jalapenos and stuff. I feel like some people want it in every bite, where somebody else is probably looking for a jalapeno every second bite. But
but people are usually more specific with their jalapenos.
That's
like
true.
I'll just have a few jalapenos.
Oh yeah. So here's a question I'd like to ask you is like, how did snowboarding get put on the table for you? Did you have an older brother that presented it to you? Like, where did it like flop into your face where you were like, this thing seems interesting. Like, I'm going to strap on this slippery little board. Like, how did that present itself to a kid in Sunshine? Or what was it again? Summerland?
Yeah. Well, fuck, it's hard to, I don't remember the first time I actually came in contact with it, but it's like nowadays people are strapping in at like 3 years old. Like I think I was 12 or 13. before I started snowboarding. And my cousin, I remember my cousin had like one of those black snows, and he brought it. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the black snow. Yeah.
And he like brought it over one day, and we had like, there's like a foot of snow at our house, and we have all these shrubs in the backyard, and he just like rode down the shrubs into the lawn. I think that was the first time I ever saw a snowboard. I was like, whoa. That's
That
cool.
looks interesting.
I was like, dude, I was like hella into tobogganing and stuff, and like GT snow racing. Like I was doing shit on the snow. I just hadn't seen a snowboard.
Dude, GTs were so sick. When I saw a kid who had a GT racer, when you would go to the local hill to go tobogganing, and one of the older guys would have like a dope GT, because they used to be like super sick. Like you could buy one that would actually like showcase one's personality. You know what I mean? It wasn't like just showing up with a wood toboggan. Someone would have like an all blacked out GT snow racer, and you're like, what? That guy's so sick.
Dude, they were mental. We used to like hike up this hill in our there was this mountain in our town called Giant's Head, and there's like a really steep road up it, and they'd close the road for winter because it was too steep and like cars would just fucking crash. So we'd like go there and hike up it with the GTs, and like we'd build
Too
jumps.
steep for cars. Kids are all up on the boggins.
Dude, it was so sick. I saw a GT actually in Revy this winter. I wanted to steal it because it was just in someone's front yard. I hadn't seen one in so long. I was like telling my girlfriend about them. I was like, this is a GT snow racer. It's the coolest thing like ever. They're so fun.
And that really applies to the story. For those that don't know, Rusty's girlfriend's from Africa, so of course she wouldn't know what a GT snow racer is.
I had to explain it.
She's like, yeah, that thing sucks. You're like, that thing is amazing.
Yeah. Oh man, we used to have at Apex, my home resort. There's like the village, and then there's kind of like it's kind of like in Whistler where there's like the mid station. There's just an area you could drive to in your car. So at night, our my friend's parents, we'd jump in the back of their truck with all our GT snow racers, and they'd drive us up there, and then we'd like ride our GTs down the ski hill at night, and you'd do like a demolition derby race. So you'd have two guys on each ski, and there'd be like four of you guys going down, like 4 skis, 8 guys, and one would be the driver, and the guy on the back would be like he'd like fuck with the other people. You'd try and like spin them around and stuff so they'd tip over and crash and stuff, and just like race down the hill. It's so much fun, dude.
It was like, that'd be like Mario Kart if you could have like Luigi and Yoshi on the same thing.
It was, yeah.
Amazing. So you get to Whistler and you get a job. Where you get the job at what? Sachi Sushi? Because you've already kind of had a little bit of a restaurant background. Is that the reason why you got the job at the sushi joint?
Yeah, well, I got a job at Subway first because I had to get a job. So I just like dropped, and I just got a job at Subway. But I got the job at Sachi Sushi like 2 weeks after, because I had moved in. I had to move, and I ended up moving in with this guy, Tom Cato. Do you know Tom?
Yeah, he used to ride for K2.
Do you really?
I think he used to ride for K2 back in the day.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, he's a boarder. Him and his brother Sean are both like boarders and surfers. Yeah. So I had moved in with him, and he got me a job at Sachi Sushi. So then, yeah, I started working there, which is like a sushi restaurant in Whistler. I was bussing tables. Yeah.
I remember going to sushi with you the first few times, and I was always you were so cultured in that way. You'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get even something simple, you know what I mean? Like a piece of fish on rice, like some sashimi or something like that. At that point, I was like, I'm going to get the chicken karaage and a California roll. And you're like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not.
Yeah, but that's just like smug asshole because I work at sushi. But
no, I liked it, dude. You opened my mind. You get the quail egg sometimes.
Still at Sachi, the tsukimi tobiko, like it's like flying fish roll with the quail egg on it. That's good. There's lots of good shit. There's stuff I never like got into as well. And it's funny, when I worked there, I hated wasabi the whole time, but I like it now.
Well, I definitely mess with wasabi, and I feel bad for bringing up the fish topic after I know half of our audience just probably watched Seaspiracy the other night, and they're all like, don't eat fish. But I love fish. Hopefully it's coming out of the ocean at a, somewhat sustainable rate.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I started watching it and then I wasn't really feeling it. I turned it off and I don't know. Yeah. I think it's hard to say not to eat fish when there's like a lot of communities around the world that actually like rely on eating fish. You can't like tell people like that not to, you know.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
So,
It's I heard that there's a bunch of like stuff that was presented in a manner that made it look one way. You know, it's just, but either way, it was nice to see that. The reason why I liked the movie is because I thought it did a good job of shining light on the corruption of fishing, which is obviously happening. And I
mhm.
mean, hopefully something will happen in the sense that less corrupt fishing boats are dropping their nets in the middle of the ocean and sucking up like whales and sharks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But easy to say.
I
And
watch
then
it.
and then that same day, you know, you go out and then you get a piece of fish and you feel guilty. But you know, I'm not here to save the planet. I'm just got a snowboard podcast. So it's up to you. You know, watch Seaspiracy and come up with your own damn conclusion. Don't be so judgy. All right. So how did Sandbox come together? Did you go to the first original meeting ever? Because you've been in Sandbox from the start to the finish, openers, enders, all up in the mix with that. Kevin Sansalone brought that all to light. Big shout outs to him and Clay Larson, etc. What was it like when that was getting pieced together?
um, I never had opener, but anyway,
Stressful.
yeah. Um,
Ender.
yeah, I was there from the beginning because Sandbox originally was a merging together of the Seymour Skids and the Crapnito crew. That's what Sandbox was. And then I think just the way it went, like HK kind of was not feeling it, or I'm not exactly sure, so I shouldn't really say. But anyway, it ended up becoming Sandbox, which Kevin took, like he ran and lasted for years and years. But yeah, I was there at the first meeting, I think.
What was the first meeting like? It was like you and Solers, and who else was in that mix for the first one?
Brendan and Jeff Keenan, Andrew Hardingham, Kevin. Fuck, it's so long ago. It's hard to remember. Jeff Brown,
Yeah,
Jesse Fox, probably, or maybe Jesse wasn't.
I don't think he was in the first one. Maybe he had
I
some
think he
clips in
was.
it.
I think he had moved on to Whiteout or something.
That movie had a profound effect on all Canadian snowboarders. Maybe it trickled down to some places in the States, and you know, maybe some people in Japan got it, etc. But
Which
for
one?
me, in Winnipeg, dude, growing up, that movie I think it made a lot of small crews realize that, like, if you're the underdog, trying to come up kids, if you collectively come together, you can make a project that's awesome. Because that whole video, it wasn't even kids. It was
Are
like
you talking
kids
about
that were,
Sandbox?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like Sandbox when it first came out was a bunch of kids who weren't even like on the team of company. You know what I mean? It was like such a
Yeah.
small scale video, but the quality of filming and riding was so high for the level and what you guys were getting out of snowboarding at the time.
Yeah, I think it was really difficult because it was all Canadian, and that was before the era of like Instagram and just putting your shit on the internet where anyone can watch it. So they had to deal with like distribution and like publications and stuff. So I think because it was all Canadian, it was really difficult for it to grow. But I think they did a really good job for sure. The riders, like the filmers, I think it was just like it was really well done, definitely. And it didn't get probably seen in the States at all or very much at all because of that. But yeah.
No, it was the classic case that if you had a really good standout part in Sandbox, you would get opportunities for things in the States. I felt like, you know, you look at yourself, Mikey Pedersen, Mark Solers, Jake Kuzik, Matt Belzil, like Andrew Jeeves, Cale Hill, like the people that crushed it in that movie turned out to have some pretty phenomenal careers coming from a group of Canadians.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think Mark's a good example. Jeeves is probably the best example because he had that one opening part and just like I kind of like blew him up.
Yeah.
And Ryan Teeney, I think, was a good example too. He
Yeah.
had an Ender one year, and then he was filming for Standard the next year, which like at the time was a big deal, you know. And then he was like on the DC Pro team after that. So
Yeah, definitely. If you were doing well in that, it started happening for you. Isn't that what for you? It seemed like you were on you, Brendan Keenan, and Mark Sollers all riding for Burton, and it just seemed like there was no opportunity for you guys to grow. Do you feel like it's kind of easy to get lost on the whole Burton program?
yeah, well, I didn't ride for Burton really. I mean, I was the rep had a team, so he just the Burton rep, Jeff Martino, is like a fucking shred lover. Like he's such a rad dude, and he like made his own team of these young guys where he's just like, I'm gonna flow these guys' product because I think that Burton will pick these guys up if I like get them stoked and get them in Burton gear. Yeah, so I was just like Martino doing it out of like the goodness of his heart, essentially, you know.
Wow.
So I didn't
Never
ride
heard
for
this.
like Burton the company. I just got stuff from Martino because he wanted to like build these kids up. And those kids turned out to be like Mark Sollers and Spencer O'Brien and myself, Mikey Pedersen, and then there was some other guys. There was anyway. But like that was pretty incredible. But anyway, so I never like got on Burton, and I rode like for Martino for a handful of years. But once I started filming video parts, I mean, the first Sandbox came out and I had like a shot in it. And then the second Sandbox came out and I had a full part in it, and people were like pretty stoked on the part. And Burton, like, I never even like got an email from them. Like I never even talked to them. And then the next year I had the Ender in the movie with like their riders in it, and I'm closing the movie and I'm like in Burton shit, and still like I don't even get a fucking like nothing. They don't even say like nice work. Like I don't even know who the team managers, you know. Well, I know their name or whatever, but so at that point I was kind of like, yo, this is fucking lame. Like I'm like gonna split. I'm not gonna like ride for Burton if they like don't even know I exist, and I'm like working fucking construction and another job, like 2 jobs all summer to film a video part to promote their shit for free. I just at the time I was like, yo, this is like not, just don't need to do that.
And dude, you really made it happen yourself, because I feel like a lot of people have a mentor when they come to Whistler. And I mean, I just had Annie on the podcast, and she was saying how like Martin, Alex Achu, and those guys kind of took her under the wing and was like, kind of helped develop her in the backcountry, where I guess Sansalone did that a little bit for you. But I feel like you, and in particular, Mikey Pedersen, made it happen yourselves. Like you guys literally went out into the backcountry, realized like, if I want to be a snowboarder who films full parts and take a run at being a pro snowboarder, I need to work all summer, buy a truck and a sled, spend tons of time riding big jumps in the black park, and then send it when I have the opportunity to film. And it's like, that's exactly what you guys did. I don't know if that's the best recipe for success these days, with like the more focus on like avalanche and being safe. But like, what was it like for you and Mikey to just figure this thing out for yourself?
Yeah, well, okay, first of all, Sansalone definitely helped in the sense that he like had hired filmers and he gave us a filmer. But other than that, it was like just me and Mikey and like this filmer, and no one knows what the fuck they're doing. Dude, I didn't get a clip that like was used in a part for the first 3 years snowmobiling. 3 years. We were just like out there like, what? Like so fucking confused, lost, like no mentor at all. Like it was savage, man. So we hit like some of the stupidest shit, and we've done the stupidest shit, and we've done like sketchy shit. I remember going up like Rainbow, and like there's like shit sliding, and it's gonna be blue tomorrow. So we're like, let's go up the day before and like build a jump. So we're like out there, and there's like avalanches and like a blizzard, and we're building a jump, and you can't even see the knuckle that's like 20 feet away. And then you like go back the next day, the jump's built totally wrong. The landing slides on the first hit, just like total fucking shit show. Whereas like now I'm like, you just know what's gonna work. You know which days you want to go, and I don't know. But yeah, that learning curve was huge, for sure.
I definitely don't
But
recommend
you got
anyone doing that. But I also like it like stokes me out so much that like you and Mikey just like, if we're gonna make this happen, we're gonna have to take this into our own hands to make this happen, because it's not just gonna be given to you on a silver platter. Like,
Totally.
you know, a lot of
Mikey is like the ultimate frother too. He's so fun. That was like so much fun learning with him. He's the best guy because he was so down and just like so positive. And neither of us were like, oh, let's try and like make money snowboarding. That wasn't a thing. It was just like, let's fucking go like hit a kicker and get a flip. Like it was just like so like just pure. Like you're just this, I don't know.
I remember seeing you guys with your trucks and your sleds and being like, oh my God, like one day I'm going to have to buy that. Like I had no money. I would live paycheck to paycheck. I would be banking on my grandma sending me $50 for my birthday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that was all like added in. I would be counting my chickens before they hatched. I'd be like, okay, my birthday's coming up. Probably make $120 there. I'm selling this t-shirt for $15 tomorrow. And I remember at one point, like you and Mikey just sledding, and then like Solar sledding, and everyone has these trucks and sleds. And I was like, how do you do that? And I swear to God, one day you were like, get a job, Jody.
Dude, my truck was like $1,200. It was a 1986 F-150, and I was scared every time I drove it that it was going to die, and I was going to be like in the middle of an intersection, all like a kid with like a dead truck and a sled in the back, like I don't know what to do. Like, dude, my shit was ghetto. My sled was like, I think it was like $4,000, which was a big fucking purchase at the time, you know. Like my sled was worth like 3 times what my truck was worth. And then my first day sledding, we went up Tricony. I fell off my sled. It rolled down the hill and just fell into a creek. Like it fell like 9 feet onto its nose in a creek bed, and just coolant leaked everywhere. And I was just like, I broke it. Like, I thought it was just over, dude. It was fucking, I was like, wow, I just worked all summer to buy this thing. And then I just fell off it like a bitch. And now it's broken forever. Like it was so, you know, fuck.
What do you think for grasping, like getting into the backcountry and stuff? Do you have any tips? You know, look back on what you did. Do you have any tips for somebody who wants to get into the backcountry that's younger? Or not even younger, just somebody who wants to venture out into the backcountry in a few years with their friends and do what you and Mikey did and just go build a kicker, not to be a pro snowboarder.
Yeah, I think just work for it. Like save, like make a goal, man. Like if you're like, I want to buy a sled and sled next winter, first of all, make sure someone else wants to do it with you, because the number one mistake I feel like of these like frothy snowboarders who want to go sledding is they buy a sled, but they're the only one with a sled. And then you're not doing shit. Your sled's sitting there all year. You can't go without a crew. So if you need to make sure you got friends who want to like have similar goals, you know, or meet some people who are already sledding. And then fucking plan for it, man. If you want to buy a sled and you're like, I need to, like, you can get a sweet sled for like $7,000 or whatever, say, like, cool, I need to save $600 a month for a year, or I need to work hard and save
Totally
more, you know, or like get a second job for like a couple months, and I don't know, just like make it happen, just work.
I mean, you didn't have it easy either. I mean, I feel like the first, like you said, 3 years you're going out there and you're not even getting clips. Then you start getting in Sandbox. Then you have a full part. Then you have one of the best parts in the movie. I mean, like with that cab 10 tail and stuff. And you still, like, what does it look like when you film, you know, your second, third part? How much money are you starting to make then?
Nothing, dude. Like my story is different than a lot of pros, dude. I must be like just this combination of stupid and and hard work or something, because I filmed like fucking
He's counting right now.
I must have filmed like 7 video parts without getting, like, on my own dime. And even like even like when I got, yeah, like Sandbox, that whole time I didn't make shit. I think Forum, I finally, when I was riding for Forum, they gave me incentives. And like the nicest thing my team manager there did for me, Kevin Keller, was he's like, I can only give you incentives, but I won't cap them. So do like
Crush it.
whatever you do, whatever you get published in magazines and videos and shit, I will pay you for that without a cap, but you're getting no salary, no travel budget, like no support for a movie. I filmed every fucking Sandbox movie I ever filmed for. I never had $1 towards that movie. Like Sandstone hooked me up hard, man. Like not $1. The only thing
cool,
I did for Kevin is I went and like bricked part of his driveway for him in the summer. Just go do chores.
That's so sick to hear, though.
Yeah, man. Like that's like without that, I would not have a career. You know, like because Sandbox is what kind of like gave me eventually after like fucking 7 of them, I got an opportunity to film like some other stuff. I ended up signing with Rome for 1 year. I signed with Rome and I filmed for one of their team movies. And then after that, I signed with Oakley, and then that was the first time a company was like, "Hey, we're gonna pay to put you in a snowboard movie," which was my first like big production.
Which we can touch base on quickly. I don't want to burst all the way to the Oakley chapter, but you did end up getting in that movie that they paid for, and then you ended it, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it was a people film, which I was like hyped on people films. They were fucking sweet. I loved them. And then I got to do one, and at that point I was just like really confident. Because I'd rode with I kind of had like filmed with the Forum crew. I got to film with John Jackson for like a month in Whistler, and it was really eye-opening. I was like, okay, like, and he got Rider of the Year that year too. So I was like, I just got to like do a month with the Rider of the Year, so I know like the shit I need to be doing and like the work ethic and stuff. And I'd been doing it all for free my whole life. So all of a sudden Oakley was like, hey, we're gonna throw in like, I think it was like 20 grand for you to film a video part with people. And I was just like, yeah, like easy. I've been doing this fucking with no support for the last 7 years. If you guys are gonna like pay for me to be in a movie and pay me to do it, like, yeah, I'll fucking knock it out of the park, man. Like, ain't no thing, dude. Like once, like at a certain point, like if that's the thing that's missing is the support. And there's tons of riders like that where it's like, if they're proving themselves over and over on their own dime, like a company, all it takes is a company to be like, here you go. And that's like, wow, you know how much easier it is to do this when you have like a paycheck coming in and you don't have to fucking like juggle all these different responsibilities and budgets that you like can't afford.
That's amazing. The persistence, and like, I feel like most people, and I bring this up on the podcast a lot, like the AM's not getting like any support these days. But when you throw it back to like 15 years ago, to you being like, motherfuckers, I wasn't getting any support either. And I filmed 7 video parts. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times, even me, I start thinking like, oh, everybody back then was making money. But like you said, your road wasn't the same as, let's say, like, I don't know, like Mark Sollers' first opportunity when he did Sandbox. Then after Sandbox, he does Eddie Graham's. And then it's just like Burton's just throwing money at him. And I mean, you growing up right beside Mark, who was filming at the time some video parts before his in color part that I would say was on par. And, you know, you see your friends starting to make like 50K and you're laying bricks with me. and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to film for Sandbox this year. And you're like, fuck.
Dude, well, first of all, I think Mark deserved to be getting paid because he was, at that time, he was hands down just better than us. He was like a better snowboarder. And
yeah, he's phenomenal.
He deserved, like, if they could pick up one guy, they picked up the right guy for sure. And secondly, you can't just be better at snowboarding than everyone. You have to be more valuable. So as soon as some snowboarders, and some guys never will figure this out, but as soon as you wrap your head around what your job is, then you'll have a way better time, because your job is not just to be a snowboarder. You know, you're promoting a brand, and how do you bring value to that brand? if you're the best fucking snowboarder on the hill, and like, how are you translating that to help this brand? Like, how is this brand benefiting off of you being the best snowboarder? Like, are you good on like social media? Are you doing things for the brand, like going and like to do like PKs and events and contests? Like, what are you actually doing to help the brand?
Yeah.
Because it's not just like, hey, I'm really fucking good, I'm like the best dude around, so I should be getting paid. Because that doesn't make sense at all, man. That's just not how it works. And that's like what being a professional is. You're not just a professional at the snowboarding. You have to be like a professional at all of it, at like working with others, at producing content, at like just all of it. And you have to be like, you have to be able to work with other people, which is where a lot of people seem to fail. You see like really good snowboarders, and then you're like, how come that guy doesn't have a career anymore? And it's like, yeah, well, they're like, because they're a really good snowboarder and they don't have a head screwed onto their shoulders properly. So they're like gone, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I never really, sometimes I don't think about it like that. I'm like, oh, that kid's good, but you have to mix good with well, paying your dues is a big thing too. I feel like a lot of people come out of the gates and they film 1, 2 parts, 3 video parts. I feel like anybody, once they get to the third, they really start being like, I deserve this, which it's like, sometimes you just need to push those extra few years like yourself and figure out how to be the package deal for a brand like Rome and Oakley, and then on to Endeavor and stuff like that. And then you get the money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm the best person to like chime in on this, because I was probably like the lowest paid Oakley athlete on their global team. But I don't know. I think that if you're out there like, I deserve this, I fucking have done this, so I deserve this, like, you're just in it for the wrong reasons from the get-go, man. Like, if you're not doing it because you love it, then that's the bigger issue. That's like the foundation of your whole career, is that you love what you're doing. And if your foundation's not there, then the whole fucking thing's not going to work, I think. But
yeah, like, I mean, look at you. It's your first year not being the pro. And I mean, like we just on earlier on the call before we started recording, we had a quick discussion and you're like, oh dude, I did the best run of my life. And just for the soul and nobody else, just for myself. And it's like, you know, if you're never up there because you enjoy snowboarding, it's going to be probably pretty transparent in your riding that you're like doing it for a paycheck. And inevitably it's like your riding just kind of looks hollow. And I always thought it was weird.
And then when
people,
like when one stick gets in your spokes, you're going to be just done because you don't have any passion, you know? Like, there's going to be a minor setback, and because all you care about is making money and thinking you're the shit, it's just, that's going to derail your whole thing, you know? You have to like be a guy like John Jay, who fucking can get dropped from Burton and just come out slugging and still just be shredding years later and go through every fucking sponsor in the world, you know? Like, dude just wants to board. Like, I don't know. I think that passion is like, if you don't have that, there's like, what are you doing anyway, you know?
And it must be, it must have been really inspiring. I mean, when you were on Forum for that short stint, I'm seeing people like Pat Moore, and you did some trips with Peter Line. And like you said, you filmed with John Jay for a bit. Like, you're with those people who are getting thousands of branches stuck in the spokes, because that analogy was awesome. And they just keep on pedaling. Like, it must have been pretty sick to, like, how was it to be with that group of people for that year and, like, you know, do the trip with Peter and get to hang out with Pat and John and like to steal what those guys have in their heads, because they really are the package deal of getting it done in snowboarding.
Yeah, it was, well, I don't know. First of all, it was just awesome because it was kind of dudes that, it was just like kind of like your idols, you know, your like childhood, or like when you first got into snowboarding, the people you looked up to, and then you're actually like hanging out with them. So that is like surreal, I guess. But I don't know. What was the question?
Well, let's just go to this. What was it like to hang out and meet Peter Line?
Okay. Pete's He's pretty fucking awesome. And you know how I met him was, you know how I said I haven't been on a plane, or I never flew till I was 24?
Yeah.
The first plane I ever went on was because Forum booked me a ticket to go to some park shoot, some Forum shoot. And I think it was the one where we hit like the burning shit, and I had the in Sandbox to like fly in like front five, hit a burning thing.
Austin Sweeten cover.
Yeah, totally. So I had a flight to Seattle, and then from Seattle to Mammoth or something like that, or wherever our shoot was. And I flew to Seattle, then I got on the plane in Seattle, and I was like, these are my first flights ever. I'm like scared of flying, and I'm just like tripping, and I'm like old I should be doing this when I'm like 8, not 24. But anyway, I'm like sitting on a plane, and someone sits next to me, and I just look over, and it's Peter Line. And because they had booked our flights together, so they sat us next to each other, and I was just like, I was like, "Are you Peter Line?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, I'm Rusty." I'm like, "I think I'm probably going to the same place you are." Like, tell him who I am, and he's like, just, I don't know, he's such a chiller. But we ended up missing our next flight because we had like one more layover and we missed it. So we ended up having some beers together, and we're like in an airport lounge, and Pete's drinking a beer, and he's like telling me some story about like, it had to do with like, it was something iconic. He was talking about like Ingemar's method or something, and I can't fucking hear him because I don't know if have you ever met Peter?
Yeah, but like through a hallway and stuff.
Dude,
like that.
He's like
never.
such a mumbler, man. Like I was sitting next to him, and I'm like leaning in. I'm like 6 inches away, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what he's saying. And I was so bummed. So I was like, oh, it's like Peter Lyons telling me a cool story right now, and all I can hear is like
You're like, please speak up. I need
yeah,
to tell people. Like,
I like wasn't in a place to be like, hey, Peter Lyon, can you speak up?
And how did the shoot go? Did you go there, and was it like, okay, this is my last park jump shoot ever? Because I feel like Forum had quite the expectation on their AM riders back in the day to perform in those park conditions.
Sorry, what did you just say? I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, no worries. I Peter lined you. No, I was just like, what back in the day, like when Forum used to have those park shoots, like there was like an expectation, I feel like, from their AMs to like come there and send it. Were you, as like a backcountry rider, did you feel that same expectation to send it in the park world?
You know what? That's funny you say that, because thank God my team manager, both of them, it was Kevin Keller and Brian Knox. They knew. They're like, this is a backcountry guy, and he's not going to be here like doing crazy shit. Because I would go to those park shoots, and I would be like, I'd be gripped, man. I was like, fuck, like, am I gonna have to do some gnarly shit? Like, I haven't rode the park, and even at that time, dude, when I was like 24, I was like, I haven't rode a fucking snowboard park in like 3 years, man. Like, I don't hit park jumps. I just don't. I don't like it. I don't want to do it. And then it's like, this isn't like fucking shack jump that's 50 feet. It's like, hey, we're gonna film on this thing that's like 100 feet, you know, and you're just like, oh no.
Oh no.
So I'd go there, and yeah, exact, dude, those other AMs would be like, this is way before triples and shit like that, but they were like doing like 1440s and 1260s and stuff, and I'd just be like, I'm gonna hit the jump, I'm gonna do a back 5, and then I am done. And I remember one year I was with like 3 other dudes. It was me, Austin Sweeten, Mario Capelli, and Nikki Corpola. 4 of us hitting this jump, and it was like Mario was doing like back rodeo 9 or something. I don't remember what Austin was doing. The other dude, Nikki, was doing like cab 12s, and all 3 of them got hurt, and it was just me hitting the jump, and they had like a helicopter following me and stuff. And I was just like, to my team manager, I was like, dude, like, I'm not gonna do those tricks. Like, look at all your dudes are getting broke off, man. I was like, I'm gonna fucking back 5 this thing, and I'm done, you know.
Is that what you did?
Yeah, I back 5 did it. It was in a Sandbox movie, actually.
Back
like,
5 straight to the lot.
Yeah, dude. But it's like, they knew I wasn't about to go to just be like, hey, I think I'll try and learn a fucking 1440 right now for your park shoot. Like, they were totally fine with it. Similar. And they weren't paying me either. So like, what are they gonna do? Be like, hey, guy, we don't pay. Go. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I was on DC, and I went to a few park shoots with like Mons, Raymond, or Ramen or Mons Raymond. Why am I saying that wrong right now? Anyways, like one of the best contest kids out right now, and like Logan Hallbrick and Torstein. And then same thing. I'm like, really hope they don't expect me to like, put the weight on my shoulders and, send it on this thing. I'd do like one front side 7, and then I would do the same thing as you, straight to the lot. And then I'd let the other guys do their business.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I hated park shoots, man. I had to do one with Rome as well. It was me and Stala Sandbeck.
Oh, wow.
And I did the same thing. I back-fived it once, and then I was like, peace.
I like
I was doing like every direction of 12.
Yeah, totally. What was it like? Because I know that you're really good friends with them. You've moved over to the island off the coast of the mainland of British Columbia, where he now resides. Seeing Austin Sweeten go from like multicolored, massive park jump guy, translating into like flowy Zen guy in the mountains who has phenomenal carving style and stuff.
I don't know. I think it was when he left Forum that his riding really like changed. And
so
just
much.
I think probably because they were like pushing him to do those park shoots and stuff, and that was probably, I don't know this, but maybe it was the only opportunity he had to film with Forum, so he was like going to those park shoots, but just instead of being me and being like, yeah, fuck that, he was going there and being like, yeah, fucking I'll send it, because that seemed to be like his footage was like park stuff back then, and street stuff I guess too. But I don't know, I think after Forum is when he really like found out how good he is at, I don't even think he just like boards, man, and I think everyone else just realized like, wow, this guy's so fun to watch when he's just like shredding.
Yeah, and his filmmaker does a really good job of showcasing his individual, like his style.
Yeah.
He like helps that, I feel like, a lot. But,
yeah, and Lucy shoots a lot of Austin's stuff in real time. It's not slow motion, and
Yeah.
Austin is really fun to watch when he's like shredding, and that translates well, and it's like real time stuff.
Yeah. All right. So what would be one of your like career highlights for you? What is something that like you look back on and you're like, this is one of the most memorable trips or moments for you snowboarding? I mean, whatever pops into mind. I mean, obviously there's probably a handful, but
yeah, there's a few. I think like the single, probably the best one, and like the one that helped me the most was getting the closing part in that people film, Pretty Wise.
Big time.
And my friend Rube Goldberg and we had both just broke up with our girlfriends at the time, Helen and Annie. and him and I were like, fuck, let's ride our motorcycles down to California to go to the people premiere, which I had been filming for all year. So we like 2 weeks before the premiere, we like saddled up in Whistler and we rode our motorcycles down to like Portland and then to the coast and then down from the coast, and we were just like partying the whole way and like sleeping on the fucking ground beside our motorbikes and shit. Like it was so ghetto. And then we like got down and the premiere was at the Transworld office. So that was like the first kind of, I don't know, it just seemed like a big deal, like you're like, oh, Transworld's like the biggest publication in snowboarding, and our premiere is like at their office, like, oh my god. And then I didn't know that I had an ender. I didn't even know because there wasn't video parts in that movie. It was like segments, and then the last segment was just like my part. I was like, whoa. So I had like gone down there, had the last part, like, I don't know, I was like tripping, and then I like left, and the next day Transworld called me and they're like, hey, we want to do like an interview with you about the top riders to watch this year and blah blah blah. And I was just like, holy fuck. And then after that, I just like kind of solidified my deal with Oakley. I got a better contract, I got a board sponsor, and it just like that year everything fell into place for me, where moving forward from then I was like I'm a professional snowboarder now.
And how long did that take from you moving like to Whistler? Like what how long was that window before that moment?
I moved to Whistler in 2004, and that movie came out I think it came out in 2012.
So 8 years of hard ass work with blood, sweat, and tears, and then you fucking hit your high point. That is
Yeah,
well
but
deserved.
honestly though, if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be here like bitching about those 8 years. Like those 8 years were some of the best years of my life, you know? So I think that's important for people to realize. It's like, it's not, you don't have to like get paid for it to be the best time ever, you know? And there's lots of dudes like in Whistler who are out like working jobs and sled shredding the gnarliest shit ever, and they're having the time of their life, man. Like you don't have to be a pro. You don't have to take that route. You just do it on your own dime, man. It's not undoable.
I also feel like that route is not as satisfying as most would expect either. It's a lot different than I ever would have imagined. I mean, would pro snowboarding be what you imagine when you're a kid? I used to watch JP Walker's parts and we're like, oh, he hits some steel rails and then he gets to wear a giant chain and he's got like a brand new house with like, and watching Mark Frank parts and being like, that's what it is. And Roman DeMarchi's parts and being like, you're just a rock star around the clock. And then it's like, okay, you're one year, you blow your knee and you're just 8 months just listening to a clock tick.
Yeah.
Like, I hope I don't lose all my sponsors.
Yeah, I remember too, one thing, like seeing those guys as a kid, it just seemed like, I don't think money really popped into my head much, because I just was like, I was so like just captivated by how cool being a pro snowboarder was. It wasn't a financial thing, it was a cool thing. Like, this is the coolest thing that you could do with your life. Like, you know? And then,
oh yeah,
but
dude.
then I started doing it,
language.
and when I started doing it, I was like, man, those pros must be so set up. They must be rich, like retired, blah blah blah. And then I remember one year I was painting with Rube, and fucking Roman DeMarchi was working with us on the ladder next to me, and I was like, oh, like,
oh. I know, right? And he's sitting beside you saying the same thing. Wouldn't change a thing.
yeah, totally. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. I've worked with Roman a bunch, and he was like, I forget what he said. He's like, I'll try to summarize it, but it was something along the lines of like, I was painting with him, and you know, you're wondering if he's going to be all jaded because he's painting, and he's like, man, I have lived 1,000 lives. Like, if people only knew what I have done with my life, like, I am not bummed that I'm painting. Like, I've done everything I've ever wanted to do.
Rock star, the man, such the man, dude.
Yeah.
I think you told me about that, actually. It's good.
Yeah, totally. Moving forward with a few chapters though, what and why did the Manboys, why did that start? Where did that come from? I mean, it's before me and stuff like that. Like, were you filming for a project and you didn't see anything that you wanted to film for? Did you see it as an opportunity to film with some of your friends? Like, how did that come together?
For me, that started, well, always in high school, I made a snowboard movie when I was in like grade 12 with like me and my friend David and Kyle and Kai, and I had a course in school called film drama television, and that was my project for the year. And I made a snowboard video, and I think that was the only class I actually did good in. But anyway, I always was doing edits. Like back when Mark and I rode for Burton for the rep, I would make us like promos each year, just kind of like fiddling with footage and stuff. And then as things developed, we did Sandbox, Rome, I did People, and then when I started after People, I did Forum, Sandbox, Forum, Rome, People. Then I got put in Absinthe because People shut down. And I just like wanted to be able to help a bit. And I wanted to kind of like deal with I wanted my part to look the way I wanted it to look. And I kind of helped with editing, but in the end of the day, like I didn't really get enough say. And like the second year I did Absinthe, the movie came out and it wasn't even the song. Like I requested like 10 songs and it was like not even one of the songs I requested. It was like a bunch of the shots I didn't want in the part, and like other ones were missing that I wanted. And I was just like, fuck man, like I just want to like make my own shit. You know, it's like you work so hard to film it all, And then if you don't trust the people who are handling it, then it just, I don't know, it just wasn't working for me. And I don't mean that as like a diss on Absinthe, because I think they make cool stuff. I just like, for me, I just wanted creative control, and I wasn't getting it to the point where I didn't even know what fucking song was going to be in my part. Like that just, it's not fair, I don't think, for someone who's like working all winter on something, like putting in everything they have and like risking it and like paying for the spot, you know, you're like paying for the spot in the movie and then you have like zero say. So from there, I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to start like making my own shit. So I did a little edit with me and Matt at the end of one year, and I just at the end I put the Manboys, because we used to be called the Junior Manboys when we rode with Crapnito. So I thought I don't know, I just like kind of hijacked that name. And then we were like, man, we should just like make our own thing. And it was me and Matt and Mark. And you, weren't you?
The first season, I feel like it was just you and Belzil, and you guys gave like Razman like a trial run.
Yeah, Razman. I do remember that. Razman was like everyone was like, I don't know about this Chris Razman guy. Like he seems kind of weird. Like we'll take his budget.
It's because he stayed with Alterna for too long. Belzil had done the 1 year with Sandbox.
Totally. Yeah, because there was definitely like Sandbox Alterna beef. It was like the two Canadian movies that no one outside of Canada ever saw, and we were just like, like butting heads.
Totally.
So stupid.
Oh.
Anyway, that's how it started, and then we like, so that we're like, fuck it, let's make our own thing. So we did the web series, and that was at the point where like everyone was doing web series, like Burton and Adidas, and there was like a bunch of other ones. Like it was just online content was kind of becoming the new like DVD. Like people didn't buy that shit anymore.
Yeah, that was
so
crazy.
we like made our own web series, and then we got nominated, and we were nominated. It was Burton, Adidas, and the Manboys, and we were like these dudes with no budget. Like nothing, like we were just these fucking idiots, and we just won. It was like, wow, Burton and Adidas just dropped so much money to make these like web series, and then like this crew from Whistler that doesn't know what they're doing just comes and like wins. So I think that after that we were just like, wow, okay, we have clout now. Like sponsors they know we can produce, so they're down to give us the budget instead of some other company. So it's like, fuck it, man, let's just do our own thing.
That was a pretty crazy year for myself too, because I had filmed rails at the beginning of the season with Brockle for DeBolt's, and then it was the end of the season, and I had gotten a snowmobile for the first time, or I was renting Devon's, and we went and hit Junk Hump together because we were filming for the World Ski and Snowboard Festival in Whistler. They were making like an edit. And I remember seeing a bunch of your guys' footage from over the year, and I was like, oh my God, like these guys are so good. And I was like so nervous to film with you guys. And I was like, I need to get a clip to be in this like project. And that's when I filmed that Cab 9. Yeah. And I was like, and I remember being like, when all the footage came out, I was like, I don't want to say if I didn't realize how good all you guys were. And I don't think that you guys had ever put on that kind of riding performance. I mean, maybe you had, and Belzil had a bit in the past, but I felt like Matt was always kind of hitting smaller jumps. And then that year, you, Chris, and Matt filmed together. I was like, holy shit. Like you guys were hitting big jump, like the Manboy gap and perfect jump, and just landing everything, like stacking A+ clips. And like you said, like you're going against Burton and Adidas, and then you're like, what up? Yeah. I literally got my first good contract last year.
Yeah, that was mental when that happened, man. That was cool. For that like small crew of like, and also that we were like, but actually like friends, you know, like live in the same town, and we're all like best friends. It was pretty fucking unique, I think, for that scenario to happen.
Well, it developed into best friends, I feel like, because the first year I knew Razman, but I wouldn't say I was close friends with him. I don't even think I had his phone number until we started filming.
Razman was the one who was like, that's why he was on like a trial year when we got him.
Yeah.
But actually it wasn't a trial year. It was like it was like we're doing the Manboys and Rasman is like sharing our filmer, and then he's gonna take his footage and like go do his own thing, but he's not in the Manboys. And then like a month into the year, we're like, Rasman's sick. We love Rasman. And that was just like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that motivation that you guys had that year was insane. I mean, you guys all the next few years in a row, I was still filming some rail stuff, I feel like, but that next year you decided to go full on and film the Manboys movie, which like you and Mark put on together. And I mean, what a giant project that was to tackle, because that was no longer me, Matt, and Chris are making like a project. You're like, I'm telling these sponsors that we're going to fulfill X and we're going to film a full movie. Was taking on that project like kind of crazy or scary?
yeah, well, we'd actually done 2 web series before that movie.
Okay.
And one of them, the first year we did it, we won the award and we did really well. And then the second year was that year we had a really bad winter. Do you remember that year?
Oh yeah.
And like
I do.
no
and
one
you guys
had
went and you guys
footage.
went to Europe and got no clips
We
and
went to
spent a bunch of
Europe,
money.
we went to Japan. Like, yeah, it was fucking savage. Like, and those trips normally would be sweet for a crew that has like travel budget and shit, but we're going there because we're like, yo, we need to go to Europe and Japan. And we don't have travel budget, but let's go. Like, it was fucking stressful, man. So we did those 2, and then the third year we did the movie. And I think the movie is largely because of Mark. I think we had done the web series twice in a row, and I think Mark had seen that we knew what we were doing, and he wanted to like help us do like something bigger, which was like a movie that's going to be on iTunes and stuff. Even though, and it was like way more of a headache, and like Mark had to license all the music because we couldn't afford to hire a person to do it, and you know, it ended up costing money, which Mark actually fronted. But I think in the long run, it's probably the thing that has been seen the least of ours, because it's, as soon as you put something on iTunes, it's like, hey, this is like $6. There's like all these people who are just like, it's not even the $6. It's like, man, I don't even like, where's my wallet? You know, like, oh, I'll just watch something else.
Yeah. What's the pin on the back of my credit card? I'm too lazy to get that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool experience. And then we switched back to web series after that.
And do you feel like, what was the biggest difference from going from filming for projects like Absinthe and projects like People, where you're getting thrown into a mix of a bunch of people you don't know, to something like the Manboys, where you're filming with the same guys year in or year out? Do you like filming with your friends, or do you like getting thrown into a mix of a big new crew and stuff like that? Like, which one worked better for you?
I think they both worked, and getting thrown into a mix actually it was cool, because like, how many snowboarders who are filming parts have you met that you like don't like? You know, like none. Yeah. Like, it's you get thrown into the mix with a bunch of people who are like-minded and interesting and like good snowboarders, and maybe people who, you know, when I snowboard with you guys, when we're building a jump, I already know what everyone's gonna do. You know, you're like building it, and I'm like, Chris is gonna cab 9 this, Jody's gonna do a front 7 slob, and like Matt's gonna do a back 7 melon. Like, you just know so well. Like, we all know each other so fucking well.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get thrown in the mix and you're just doing stuff with dudes you haven't rode with, you kind of get exposed to just shit you're not used to seeing, you know, and they're dropping in, you don't know what they're gonna do, and then they do something, you're like, oh fuck, no way. Like, it's definitely, there's pros and cons to both. I don't think I have a favorite. Well, actually, I do have a favorite. I'd rather hang out with my best friends for sure. But I getting thrown into a crew, in my experience, has been awesome too, and I've learned a lot.
And I mean, yeah, and you probably have so many friends that live around the world, and acquaintances, and just people from filming from all those different projects over the years that, you know, the next time you're in Europe, just being able to cross paths with some of those people, or, you know, you go to Japan or whatever like that, it's going to be cool in 5-10 years to see like, oh, I'm in Australia for a random reason. Like, I'm going to call Ryan Teeney and go for a beer with him.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I agree.
And I mean, he's got kids and everything now, and I mean, hopefully his life's going fantastic. I feel like he's working at like a snowboard camp or coaching snowboarding or something like that. It's pretty exciting things for the teen dog, I heard. I don't know what he's doing, but I got to get him on the podcast. I've been a big fan of his switch backside spins since day one.
Yeah.
Great switchback sevens.
Yeah.
All right. Trick that you are most proud of that you've filmed.
Ever?
I feel like I know it.
No, you don't. Ever?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I always have had a lot of like respect for cab sevens into powder. I think the cab seven is it's a trick that like it's hard to decide to do it because you're basically accepting that you're probably not going to get a shot on this feature. Because it's just like hard to land a cab seven in pow. And I used to, like, when I was growing up, who always had the sickest ones was Trevor Andrew, man. He'd have a sick fucking cab seven, or Aero Nemo would have a sick cab seven. That was what I was down with, but yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and your cab seven tail, I believe it's in the People movie. Could be wrong. The one that's absolutely bolts. That one's.
Yeah, I had one like every year for a few years, and now I haven't had one in a park for quite a while actually. But yeah, I think the first like good one I had was in a Sandbox one, that cab seven tail you're talking about. And then I had one the next year I filmed with Rome, and I had like a FT cab seven on the double line jump up face. And then I filmed with People, and I cab seven gas drop. I was like super hyped on that one.
So here's one thing I feel like I noticed about your snowboarding, and since we're talking about these cab sevens, stance. So when you first moved to Whistler, what's your stance? And now, you know, moving 15 years later, what does it look like? I feel like that's always interesting, you know?
Yeah, I don't remember when I moved to Whistler, but I remember when I was like a Whistler Park kid, it was at least 24 and a half inches, or at least
there we
24.
go.
I want to say 24 and a half inches, and I was like 21, negative 21. And now,
what?
Yeah, dude.
Wow,
in my head, and riding with Andre was really into that too. The like 21, negative 21, or like 18, negative 18. Because in the park, it's like, oh, you ride switch all the time. So like, you want to be fucking, and then as you get older, your stance is just like, your back foot's like negative 21, negative 18, negative 15. You like wake up the next morning like negative 8, negative 5. And now I'm like, I went to like 0 and 21, and I finally was like, oh, I think I've gone too far. So I backed it up to negative 3 and 21. And that's what I've been riding for like probably 3 years now.
Yeah, mine's negative 6 in the back, and then 15 in the front, and it's 21 inches wide. And I've been like that for a year or so now, and I'm like, I think this is my home. But I've said that before. I remember I was at 23 and a half back in the day. And I remember I moved it into 22 and a half. And my old roommate, Kevin, was like, dude, you're one of those small stance guys now. Like, what are you doing?
22 and a half? I think that would look good on you. I think that's what I ride, 22 and a half now.
Yeah, my stance when I was in Winnipeg, my stance was 24 inches T-bolted on a JP Walker.
Yeah, dude, T-bolt. That's sick. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've touched base a lot on your snowboarding. You had a phenomenal career. One of my favorite jumpers in the backcountry with the best style. But there's a big chapter to your life that I feel like, you know, halfway through snowboarding, you started really dabbling into and falling in love with too, is like those first few trips to Bali and surfing. You want to give us a little, what drew you into surfing? Was it just the trip to Bali? Have you always been into surfing?
Actually, well, the first time surfing, the first like real time surfing was when I was dating Annie, and she was a surfer, and she wanted to go on a surf trip, and she would always go on surf trips, and I think she would usually go to Indo, and this trip she wanted to go to Mexico. And so I went to Mexico with her, and we were there for like 25 days or something like that, or a month, or I don't know. But it was just like, that was my first time surfing, and I just kind of ate shit the whole time. But I remember the last day I caught a wave and like actually got to like do a bottom turn and then ride on a clean wave to the beach, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I continued to do that, and like I started to just I would go to Indonesia in the fall for, I don't know, probably did that like 6 or 7 years. And
I feel like most people in Canada say that they surf, but you're actually good at surfing.
I'm not good at surfing. I would never say I'm good at surfing, because every time I see myself surf, I want to throw up. But I have a lot of fun surfing. I mean, I can catch waves, but I look like shit for sure. It's hard, man. Like, I really think that I've heard snowboarders be like, oh yeah, like surfing kind of comes easy because I'm good at snowboarding, and in my mind it's like, could not be more wrong. Like, other than just being able to stand up on a board, like that's the only thing that it helps you with. Everything else, the mechanics are so different. Like, if you've snowboarded forever like I have, and then you start surfing, all of your muscle memory is wrong. So everything your body wants to just do naturally because you've been doing it for years and years and years snowboarding is totally wrong. So it's just like, learning surf technique is really difficult, and it takes a lot of I don't know, mental power, I would say, because I do everything wrong. And I've like seen video of myself and been like, I'm doing this wrong, I need to do this one seemingly simple thing differently, and then I can't like change. It's so hard.
Well, you dive into everything that you like in your life. You dive in full force. I mean, like, you fell in love with surfing, you got good at it, you do it all the time. You fell in love with hockey, goaltending. I mean, you liked hockey for a long time, but then you started, you're playing goalie all the time. And now you're kind of a little bit into rock climbing. I mean, what do you feel like whenever you find something that you like, you dive into it? And why do you do that? You commit so hard right off the bat. It takes me so long to get drawn into something new.
I don't know. I think if I just try something and I like it, then I just want to keep doing it. Is that
jealous? No, it's just I'm just a little bit jealous of it, because like, I do something and I like it, and I feel like it takes me, like, it's a really slow process. Whereas I feel like whenever I see you, I'm like, oh, Rusty did drop in hockey. I'm like, Rusty has all, goalie equipment. And then I come over to your house and you're watching goaltending videos on the big screen, being like practicing glove sides in the middle of the living room. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard I'm like that.
But when you do something, you get good at it. Where like when I do somebody,
but you know what, Jody, a lot of that stuff, it's more fun once you reach, you don't have to be like amazing at it, but it's like surfing, it's not fun unless you're decent at it, like True. It's not fun to go fucking swimming around in the ocean for hours and hours without even being able to catch a wave. Like, that's just exhausting, and it gets really tiring, and you get over that shit real quick. So it's more fun when you're better at it. And like hockey, being a goalie, it's more fun when you're saving the puck and you're not getting scored on like 600 times and feel like a piece of shit, And then like climbing, it's more fun when you can climb the shit that your girlfriend can climb, like,
or you're climbing and not falling.
Yeah, Gosh, or you can't get off the fucking ground on something that like is supposed to be easy. Like, it's just more, I have more fun when I'm better at stuff. So I think that's probably why I'm like, if I like it, I'm going to do it and try and get at least to a point where I'm like capable at it. I wouldn't say good, but capable.
I like that. That's everyone should live their life like that. I don't know why I do something and then I don't know. I tend to get good at the things I like really like, but I haven't found that new thing that I really like. Where I mean, since we've been friends, you fell in love with all four of those things, like hockey, mountain climbing, I mean, you could even throw golf and surfing. You're pretty good at all of those things. I'm just wondering when it's my time to get good at something new.
You're getting pretty good at podcasting.
I got some work to do for sure, my man. But thank you. This is an important question, and I feel like it's time for some reflection. Looking back at your whole career, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this podcast, I feel like the complications due to COVID-19 were the inevitable downfall of Oakley and your board sponsor letting you go, kind of putting you in a weird position where they made the decision to let you go. How did that feel?
To be let go?
Yeah, man, that seems like a heavy one. I mean, you put your life into this. You're riding better than ever. You're one of my favorite people to snowboard with, not just because you're safe in the mountains and because you're enjoyable to be out there. Great filmer, photographer, knowledgeable. It's truly one of my favorite people to watch live. And I just feel like your natural capabilities were just blossoming. And I'm truly devastated that they got cut short, because I think we could have seen some A+ rusty parts for the future, but that's not how it worked out. So I'm just wondering how that felt for you being the rider.
Well, I honestly, at being like, I'm like 34, I actually turned 35 tomorrow. So I'm like, every year that I was getting a new deal, I would be like, oh, this might be the last one. Oh, this might be the last one. Like, it's not unexpected. And then COVID hit, and I was like, oh, that's like, there's a very good chance that I'm not gonna have spawn. Like, I wasn't surprised, basically, is what I'm saying. I think I'm in a really lucky position because I really, over the last 5 years or 6 years doing Manboys, I've done all the back end work, the editing, and if people follow the Manboys and see like a lot of the photos and stuff on there are my photos, and I'm like pretty camera savvy. It's a really easy transition for me to pick up a camera and still be out there and still be contributing and still be like valuable to brands and to my friends and stuff. So I think it took a second to realize that. At first, when I got cut, I was just like, fuck it. Like, fuck snowboarding this year. I'm staying in Yuki all winter. I'm just going to surf. Like, I don't even care if I go snowboarding. And then I kind of quickly realized, like, hey, I still want to go snowboarding. I can get a camera. I can still go snowmobiling with my friends. I can film them, hit the feature, and I can still do some power runs. So I just think I'm in a really good situation where I don't have to walk away from it, you know?
Yeah.
And then starting filming, I kind of surprised myself with how excited I get when you guys are hitting something. I'm like, can't wait to get a clip, you know? And so I'm gonna land something and I'm filming and I'm like shaking. I'm like, we got a clip. I'm like so fired up. And it just like, it's like taking something you've been doing forever and like adding something to it that makes it new again or fresh again almost.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked actually. I can't complain. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, like, do you miss being at the top of the in run, it being windy, and you're looking at the bumpy takeoff, and there's a few weird ruts in it, and you got to hook all the way left to get over to that backside spin, like, you know? Or do you miss that whole adventure of like hitting the jump and trying to, like, you know, get your trick? Or is that like a fun chapter that you're happy to close? And I don't know. To me, you were so good at like.
Well, the thing is, like, it's not like a jump that makes you feel that way. It's like the feeling that feels good. And I can get that feeling. I don't have to hit a jump to feel like that, you know? I can, even like when we went filming and I get to like hit the fucking cliff beside your guys' jump the other day, like, it's still, I'm like riding up to it like, well, you better be on it, buddy, you know? Like, you're still hitting
Well,
like
that was a legit clip. Like you did not just take you've been posting like media laps, but like the front three and the cab five you did natty. I was like, those would be in my part this year, but you just did them for fun.
yeah, but like you don't have to film that shit to make it like fun, enjoyable. It's not like that I was getting filmed before and that's why I liked the snowboarding. Like I can if I want, I can go up and build a jump still and just launch my old bones, dude. Like no one's
I would be
stopping me.
if I was a young kid, I'd be stressing to film with you because I feel like you had much more in the tank to give. And I feel like if you're a young gun and next year you're out there filming some kids, you're gonna be like, you guys done with the jump? This is how you do a front seven melon that you were trying earlier. You gotta drift over to this pocket right there and whoop bam.
Honestly, that would be fun.
So do you think the future holds more filming for you? Are you excited about making this a new chapter, or is this a passion project?
Yeah, I think next winter I would like to do something film wise, yeah, and
Cool.
take it more seriously. This year I kind of was like, I'm doing something for Après Lager because they put budget back into snow sports, so which is pretty cool. I might do a little plug here, but basically like if you buy their beer, a portion of that money goes back into snowboard productions like the Manboys. So essentially like drinking that beer, you're helping fucking snowboarders get filmed, which I think is fucking cool. Cause I think every brand in snowboarding should be like helping people snowboard because that's like how you're making your money. So you should be supporting that,
Big time.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree anymore. Big shout outs to Joey and everybody at Après Lager holding it down. If you've ever been to Whistler, you've probably been to one of his many establishments and had the time of your life.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna do next year there'll be something. And I don't know. I'm hoping I can do it with you guys, and I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out this summer, but I'm definitely gonna be out there doing something.
Awesome. So what do you have planned for the rest of the summer? Are you going to be doing psychedelics and looking at the stars, or what does Rusty have coming up?
We're developing a climbing wall in Ucluelet. It's gonna be sick. So I'm gonna be doing lots of climbing this summer. I got some work to do around the house. I gotta build a sauna and a greenhouse and possibly a chicken coop. I'm not sure on that yet because it seems like a lot of work to look after the chicken.
But fresh eggs would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I just gotta kind of chat with my girl and make sure that she's gonna look after the chickens if I build the coop.
Yeah, because you're gonna be out surfing all the time.
That's right.
That boy.
But yeah, Yuki living.
I like it, dog. Another question that I feel like we kind of skipped that I feel like is important because I feel like you have, a lot of insight on this type of stuff. Who are some snowboarders over the years that have kept you inspired to like keep filming? Like, is there any riders out there that you're like, this guy and this guy or this girl have been filming parts over the years that have kept you like, bam, like, dang, I want to get out there and kill it next year. Like, that was sick.
Man, there's a lot of, basically like everyone who's filming. It's just like sweet to see people doing it. And it is sweet to see people who get older and keep doing it. Even if they're not like as good as they were, it's cool to see people who just fucking keep grinding, man. Like you can just see when someone is a lifer.
A snowboarder.
Yeah, I love snowboarders. And I hate people who aren't snowboarders but snowboard.
Live in California, make all the calls.
I love the fucking like, dude, the snowboarders, like I going with Mark and Mikey the other day was so sick. Like Mikey's that dude loves snowboarding. It's so sick, like I don't know, it's just like, yeah, there's lots to love about it. And anyone who's out there like because they love it and they're putting out parts or filming or doing whatever, like people who just live and breathe it, I love that shit.
Awesome, dude. That's really dope to hear. Natural selection quickly. How did you feel about that event? Something new.
I was wondering if you'd-
Your prodigy, the guy that you took a shot on, Chris Rasman, making it all the way to the finals.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I think that in 5 years it'll be cool if it keeps going. I think they were put in a really tough situation with COVID. So I think the Canada thing was a bit of a fiasco. The terrain seemed kind of lame, and the whole thing just seemed really rushed. And I think snowboarders who didn't like that need to just give them a mulligan there, because I think they were like had a lot against them for that. So I think it's cool that they managed to like squeak something out. I think it's I don't know. I think it's cool for sure. The only thing I think they have no business when Alaska's done saying that someone is the best powder snowboarder in the world, because there's a lot of guys who weren't there, like Blavelt and Kazu and Arthur Longo, who I just think a lot of people got missed out on the whole event. So I just hope Red Bull's not like, and the best snowboarder in the world is this guy, because it's like not true, you know. But
that was the best answer ever.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah,
there is
it'll get better every year. I think like with Travis running like all the say he has in it, and it's gonna be sick. I just think that obviously it's got a little derailed with COVID, but I'm stoked that it's happening, and I can't wait to see where it ends up in the future.
Yeah, it's tough
So
right
if
now.
I might talk a little bit of shit on it though, the only thing, actually I shouldn't, but no, it's sick. It's fine. I just didn't like all this social media. I think all the riders are just so excited to be there that they just like wouldn't put their fucking phone down, but it just was like overwhelmingly lame content, but like so much of it from like otherwise cool people who wouldn't ever be like, it was just like a frenzy of social media that was kind of irritating. So I just had to put my phone down for that. But yeah.
Yes, that was so sick. Because I mean, you mentioned an amazing list there of riders that weren't there. I mean, like there's so many riders that excel in different terrain that weren't there for their terrain. Like for me, when you look at the Jackson, Blavelt, Torstein, Arthur, but then if you move into a more AK setting, J-Rob, Manuel Diaz, like John Jay.
Yeah, totally.
And apparently,
yeah, totally. Yeah, that just exactly. It's a cool contest, and like definitely a stacked lineup. Whoever wins it is beyond stoked. I mean, you have to like to win that. You're beating, you know, like whatever 15 of some of the best snowboarders. But I just have this feeling that Red Bull, being an energy drink sponsor or whatever, is just going to say something along the lines of, this is the best snowboarder in the world. And I just like, I'm going to puke in my mouth a little bit if that happens.
Me too. Well, next year, hopefully, because apparently they were going to have a lot more riders there. Like I think like 25, but they had to cut it down to 16. So hopefully next year there's a little bit larger of an audience that can go there, or I mean some riders, because there's definitely, I would say, about 6 solid big dog pros that you're like, fuck, they just needed to be there to like make that legitimate, you know what I mean? And excluding those just means that you don't have everybody there.
And I think the judging, I don't know, I was like telling Chris, because he's homies with Travis, I was like, dude, tell Travis to get me on the judges panel, man. Like I'd rather judge that shit than ride in it, because when I watched the Jackson one, there was like a couple situations where I was just like, oh no, like the judges.
I know everyone.
Like fuck, dude. Like I don't know.
If you don't know a back five,
I was just like, man, I'd love to be like on that judges panel as just like an overall impression guy. Because I'm like, dude, I know all these, I personally know most of these guys. I know, like, I've seen all of their video parts. I know, like, all about their riding. Like, I'll judge these fucking guys. Get me in there.
Yeah, it's funny. Definitely a few. things that the judges that you're just like, as a backcountry riders, I'm looking at them like, wow, they probably don't ride like
Yeah.
a back seven
Like-
and a front seven and a cab five. Those are staple, especially if you know the riders.
Yeah.
A back five or a backside 180
Yeah.
or a front 180 or
Or-
riding the course switch.
Yeah,
is
I was just gonna
insane.
say, how about carving through the course switch?
That's like
that
50
right there, that's a
points
trick.
right there.
Yeah,
That is,
totally.
yeah.
If that was fucking
Yeah.
like amped
Oh.
2, link your shit with a butter.
Yeah, I already did the post the other day, but for those that don't know, Rusty had the high score in AMP 2 for how long?
No,
Online.
no.
Couple days. Couple
Yeah,
hours.
yeah. I don't think we need to talk about that, but I went from first in the world to last in the world
Real quick.
due to too many points.
All right, my man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm a huge fan. I love you. I love your snowboarding, and I can't wait to film with you next year.
Yeah, I can't wait to film you, dude. Let's
Yeah.
get K2 and Billabong to. give me
Oh
some
yeah, we'll
money
get
to
all the
film you.
brands
Let's
to
get some
Vans,
budget.
everybody. All right, so we'll go through kind of a final four questions I give to everybody. Been switching it up these days, but all right, number one, a snowboarder that's inspiring you these days.
These days,
Yeah.
man, Mikey Rents, because I never snowboard with him, and I have just done like a week filming those guys, and I'm just like stoked on his attitude and
Yeah. Biggest Mikey fan. Couldn't have picked a better one. Let's quickly go. Somebody who inspired you when you were a kid, big time.
like a snowboarder, I guess. Well, I was already talking about Donnie, so definitely Donnie. Jeff Pepperdine, even as a kid, for sure. My
Sick.
brother, my older brother Matthew, and Mark Sollers. Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Super dope. What's in that kind of category? What was the video you watched the most growing up?
Little Bastards, Destroyer, Revival, and 1999. Those 4 videos. I owned those 4 videos, and I owned them for like 5 years, and I would watch them all the time. And then in Whistler, Mark was like, dude, these videos are like so old. He's like, they make new ones every year, right? I was like, no.
I've heard Mark
didn't
tell me
know
that
that.
story.
Yeah. So I was
All
just
right.
like, watching old videos.
One piece of life advice.
Fuck, man. No one's gonna listen anyway, dude. Kids don't listen to that shit. But I don't know. Save some money. Live below your means. Don't live above your means,
That's a really good
and you'll
piece.
be happy. Seriously, man. Doesn't matter what you make. Just live within your means, and you'll have a happy life for sure.
Boom. You've heard it right there from the boss. All right. Number 3. What do you think you'll be doing in the future?
Like how far in the future?
That's up for you to decide.
I don't know. There's talk of, well, yeah, my girlfriend's from the tropics, so we might end up leaving Canada. We'll see. But yeah, possible sailboat and not seeing me for multiple years is possible for sure.
All right. Last one. What's more fun, snowboarding or surfing? You have to pick one. The other
Snowboard.
one gets deleted off the face of the earth forever.
Whoa. Oh. No, dude, snowboarding. The run I just did, hellying with Mark the other day, I was telling him at the bottom, I don't know if I already mentioned this, but I think it was before we started rolling, but like the run that we did, I was like, man, I would trade like 2 weeks of resort riding for that one run. Like when you get it good snowboarding, when you're riding a good run in the right snow, it's like you can't fucking top that feeling. It's mental.
Love it. Thanks for coming on, dude. Big fan.
Thank you. Joey.
Any shout outs or anything you want to do to anybody or? Anyway, any last thoughts?
I don't know, man. To the new generation of backcountry kids, wear earplugs on the sled ride up and down.
Good tip.
If you're lucky enough to have a long career, it'll damage your ears. But I don't know. You'll probably get dropped way before then anyway. You little bitches. Just kidding.
Finally, some fire. Hell yeah. That's what we want to hear, Russ.
Yeah,
Good
I don't.
looking.
Yeah, I don't know if I have it. I don't know. That's probably it. People don't listen to advice. They need to learn for themselves.
Yeah. Our only advice, since this is a more backcountry, I feel like audience on this episode is to take a course and stay safe. Beacon probe shovel boys know how to use them.
Yeah, and once you learn how to be safe, keep learning how to be safer. Because then that's like you think you're safe and then you do something that's stupid and
Yeah. Have you ever been in an avalanche? Have you, I mean, or in a landing or anything?
I've never been buried,
Thank God.
but I've lost friends and been around shit, and yeah, it's like if you log enough hours, then that shit is gonna happen. So definitely don't just like take your AST1 or whatever and then think that you're good to go. Like you should be progressively learning more if you continue to use the backcountry. So just always work on improving, and then hopefully you live a long life, and your friends do too.
Hell yeah. All right. On that note, be safe, everybody. Thanks for coming on, Russ.
Sick, buddy. Love
All
you,
right.
buddy. Thanks,
Love
Joey.
ya. Peace.